Welcome to Coron.
At the end of our first week in the Philippines, we took a flight away from the metropolis of Manila over to the island of Coron in the very north of Palawan province. For years, it was a hidden gem, but still a place that looks like it's been taken from the pages of a storybook. Complete with epic cliffs, beautiful hidden lagoons, and pristine white sand beaches. It's no wonder that these days it's become an Instagram sensation. But is it still possible to find views like this? Or does it all look a bit like this? We spent 4 days there to find out. There's some incredible views from this plane. After a little over an hour, we touched down into Coron's main airport. And after we navigated the crowds of minibus drivers outside, we managed to grab some seats headed to Coron Town. But confusingly, we hadn't actually arrived on Coron Island at all. Nope. Coron Town actually sits on the neighbouring island of Busuanga, just across the bay from the famous sights of Coron Island. And Coron Town is the busy centre of tourism for the whole area, with crowded roads full of cars and bikes, with many restaurants and bars. But most importantly, it's the jumping off point for the many boat trips to the best sites.
You can't walk a metre in Coron Town without running into some sort of tour agency, all selling exactly the same tours that go to all of the same spots. Which means one thing, a lot of overcrowding.
So to maximise our chances of seeing the sights in solitude, we booked ourselves a private boat for the next day. In the meantime, there are still other ways to see some sights while avoiding the crowds. We decided to spend our first full day exploring Busuanga itself, which despite its size, is often overlooked by visitors here.
Here we go.
Our first goal was to get some views over our surroundings. And there is one pretty obvious place to head to.
We're starting our day by hiking up Mount Tapyas to get some views over Coron Town and the neighbouring islands. I don't have a drone, so this is how I get my establishing shots.
It's a pretty hard climb up the 700 steps, so I wouldn't want to try this in the middle of the day. At the top, you'll see a huge white cross, and underneath it, they even have the Coron version of the Hollywood sign. But of course, the main event is these incredible views over the bay.
So straight ahead there is Coron Island. You can see all the boats heading over there on tours now. So next we're going to check out a couple of the beaches on Busuanga, Bali Beach and Cabo Beach, and see what they're like.
Once you get out of town, the roads definitely get a bit more bumpy. But after about 20 minutes of riding, we arrived at our next stop.
So this is Cabo Beach, which is okay. Not quite paradise.
We got the whole place to ourselves, but it's really not much to write home about. Just down the road is another spot named after a faraway destination.
And this is Bali Beach. Which again is quite nice, but it's not quite it. But I've got high hopes for the next stop, which is some natural hot springs.
The Maquinit Hot Springs are one of the very few saltwater hot springs in the world. And the bathing area is essentially one large pool.
It does seem a little bit strange to be going to a hot spring on a boiling hot day like this, but let's give it a go. It's actually not as hot as I thought it would be. It's like just the right temperature, like a good bath.
There is plenty more to see on the island if you're willing to drive for a little longer. But we decided to get an early night before our first boat trip to Coron the next day.
Morning.
We were picked up at 7 a.m. from our guest house and headed straight to the port. There is a big food market right next to where the boats leave from, so we did some shopping and chose what we wanted for lunch later on. And after that, we headed for the boat.
So we're just in Coron Harbour now. We've picked up our lunch from the local market and we're just waiting to head out towards Coron Island. And hopefully we'll be one of the first people to get there because it's still quite early.
Unfortunately, despite getting onto our boat in very good time, our boatman told us that they don't actually let any boats leave the harbour until around 8 a.m. So we had to wait for a little while. But eventually, near 9 o'clock, we got the all clear and it was all systems go.
Okay, here we go. We're getting close to the island now. The rock formations are amazing. It's a bit of a race going on. All of the boats are heading to the same spot.
Because so many boats were leaving at exactly the same time, we definitely weren't alone in trying to get there quickly. But from this point, it all got a bit National Geographic. Our first stop on the tour was Kayangan Lake, probably the most photographed place in Coron. But despite our early start, we had plenty of company.
As you can see, we're far from the first people here.
We started our climb up the 367 steps and towards the lake itself. And on the other side, we found the incredible water that we had seen online. When we got there was quite a crowd on the boardwalks already, and you're also required to wear life jackets when swimming in the lake. But I've got to say, getting into the water itself is such a great experience.
On the way back down, there's just hordes and hordes of tour groups turning up, so I think we still did well to get here before those. There's even a queue to get a photo at the viewpoint. On to the next stop now, which is the Twin Lagoon.
From the very first stop on our boat trip, it became clear that Coron isn't the hidden gem that it once was. Getting a private boat can help you avoid the crowds if you're clever enough with your timings, but we clearly didn't get that right at our next stop. This is one half of the Twin Lagoon, another of Coron's most famous spots. But to get to the most beautiful area, you need to find the secret entrance, which you can only enter by swimming. We took the plunge, and one of our boatmen insisted on pulling us along with a float, which made for a very relaxing trip into the lagoon. You have to swim under this low archway, and on the other side is a stunning oasis. The cliffs around you here are really striking, and even though it's very busy around the opening, you can swim away from the crowds of orange jackets and find some much quieter spots. But yeah, I won't lie, it is very busy here, and it seems to be quite unavoidable. Next, it was time to eat that lunch we bought at the market, and there can't be many better lunch spots than this.
We've just stopped on this little beach for some lunch, and it's the first time today that we found somewhere that isn't overcrowded, and it's actually really nice and peaceful. The guys on the boat cooked the fish we got at the market this morning with some vegetables and rice. It's absolutely delicious.
The beach got a bit busier by the time we finished eating, so we decided to jump onto a kayak and see if we can find somewhere a little more peaceful. And it really didn't take long.
Amazingly, after only a few minutes of kayaking, we found this pretty much deserted beach, and it is absolutely stunning.
Our boatman found us on the hidden beach and took us slightly further out to see the famous coral garden, a great spot to do some snorkeling. And it was honestly amazing out here in the water, and we got to take our time to swim for as long as we wanted.
It's definitely the clearest water I've ever swum in. Crystal clear blue.
Overall, the private tour was very nice, but it's quite unlikely that you'll find those Instagram views at the most famous sites. We paid around £50 for the boat, which I think is a really good price, and that included all of our entrance fees to the sites, but not our lunch. But surprisingly, the very best experience we had in Coron actually happened on our last day.
We're going for a different tack today. We're joining a group boat tour, and we're going to head to some of the further away islands, and hopefully we'll find some beautiful paradise beaches.
We opted to jump onto Tour C, which focuses on the further away islands and beaches of the area. Our boat carried a group of about 15 people, and this time we spent a lot longer travelling out to our first destination. But when we made it to island number 1, boy, were we in for a surprise.
So after an hour and a half on the boat, we've arrived at our first beach on Busuanga Island. This place is the real deal. It's a little bit busy, but it's just so beautiful. It's the bluest water yet.
I'd never experienced anything like this before, but to be honest, as we travelled around the Philippines, swimming in water like this became quite normal.
Just 10 minutes away is Banana Island. And it's another really, really beautiful place. White sand, blue water, and hammocks as well. Hammocks are great. So we've just arrived at our last stop of the day, Malcapuya Beach, We just have to walk over this hill, and the beach is supposed to be on the other side. This is decent.
Right at the end of the beach is a really impressive viewpoint over the surroundings, which was a great end to a really great day.
This is incredible. Insane.
Overall, we learned some good lessons in Coron, and we definitely took those findings onto the rest of our time in the Philippines. Instagram doesn't always show you the real experience, and you never know what places you can find when you head a little further away from the main sites. Coron has so much beauty to enjoy, but some of it is where you least expect.
Thanks for watching. See you next time. Oh, that's so good.